Rick, do me a favor, talk for a second.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Well,
following.
I see David, I see Sandy, I see Jean. I
Okay,
see- The only one we don't see is Z. I see Z's iPad. That's all I can.
right. Now, so Z,
Yep.
I want you,
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin.
hang
Did
on,
did I
hang
appear?
on,
Yeah.
Mr.
Hey.
Martin.
Is
Did
that
I-
her?
Z, you just got your camera
Yeah, she's
moving.
on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Martin, hello.
It's magic.
Z, we see Z.
There she is.
Hey. Oh,
Okay, tilt your camera down, Z. We're only seeing your hair.
oh, hey, that's the best part of me that's left.
It always was.
Nevertheless.
It always was. Good hair.
Oh, you got
Hi,
something.
Lori.
Hi, darling. Hi, Lori. Hey, everybody. Hey,
All right, here's Steve. Steve, hang on. I'm about to put you in the room. All right, it says joining. Are you there? Yes, you are. Turn on your camera. Yes, turn on your camera. Turn on your sound. I'm saying goodbye on the phone.
Okay, I see you, I think.
There, you got it.
Hey.
Hey,
My work is done. I'll see you guys next year.
You don't get to leave.
We fucking did it.
Good.
Shut up.
Hi, can you see me?
Yay, you guys.
Wait,
Yay.
there's somebody else coming in. What's that?
Oh, Bubba.
Maybe they took a weird route.
So,
So yeah, I'm,
so David had I thought, a really good idea. And I think we might as well get started on it now. And that idea was that, that we would go around the room and we would ask everybody to spend no more than 2 minutes telling us where,
What they were doing before they ever met or encountered the hog farm, and what was the occasion, as best as they can remember, how they first fell into this soup.
Oh, God.
What
okay, so
happened?
who wants to start?
Okay.
Okay, Tent Tom. Oh, sorry. Let me let Tent Tom go and then you'll be next. Okay, Tom, yours.
Well, I left America in 1969 to go surfing in Morocco.
who's speaking?
Tom,
This is Tent Tom, and everybody from here on in, please say who you are, because we don't fucking know anymore.
that's me.
Yeah, I just see Rick.
Right. All right, Tent Tom, go ahead.
Okay, well, I left America to go surfing in Morocco in 1969. And after 4 months, I left there and took a ferry up to London because my girlfriend had some friends there. So I ended up hanging out in London for, about 8 months. And then in September of 1970, I heard that there was a concert happening. I think it was at the Underground or somewhere. And it was, and I thought, well, I'll go meet them. Wavy was there, and I'd go meet them and see what's happening. So I went to the concert, and after a little bit, I found Wavy. And they were talking about going to Bangladesh. They had their bus, I think, already financed or got it. And they were going to go to Bangladesh. And I asked if I could join them. And Wavy asked me, well, do you have any money? Oh, well, so I don't have any money, but I got 500 hits of acid. Oh, okay, you can ride shotgun.
You're in.
So that's how I got to meet Wavy and get on the bus. And we ended up, driving to Kathmandu. And I ended up living in Kathmandu for 12 years. So I have to thank Wavy for taking me back to where I could start up again, get back to where I started. And that's why I ended up in Nepal.
Thank you. So Suzovich,
Okay.
and Suze, come up closer to the camera, if you don't mind.
Am I close enough?
Yeah, let's see what happens here. You go ahead and talk.
Here, I'll come over here. Is this better?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was in high school and I met American Gypsies, which is Rick and Patton Parks and a bunch of other people. And they took me up to the hog farm. And that's where I met the hog farm. And I hung out with everybody for a couple of years. And then when I graduated from high school, I flew with Bonnie Jean on an airplane to Santa Fe and got off the airplane and went up to the mountains in New Mexico. And I was on the bus. You guys probably all know the rest of my story. Okay.
So, anybody on cameras want to say something?
I will. Bonnie Z
Okay.
here. I will identify myself as Bonnie Z. Yeah, well, grew up in Los Angeles, West Los Angeles, and from 1958 to 1966, I was hanging out with Elvis, the Elvis, and then in 1966, I met Evan, and
Can I ask you a question?
oh, sure. This might make it.
You chose, I want to be clear about this. You chose Evan over Elvis.
I did.
I think that's important information.
Evan was much cuter than Elvis.
Oh, no. Well, I don't know about that. I must admit, Elvis was the most amazingly gorgeous, handsome, charismatic human being I'd ever met, still to this day. But anyway, that's besides the point. So when we were doing Dr. West's Medicine Show and Junk Band, it was Evan and me, Norman Greenbaum, and Tall Jack Harrington. And when we were through, we had the #1 song in Boston and Chicago and Memphis. And when we went to perform in Boston, that was the last of our East Coast jaunt. So we put an ad in and we found a drive away to go from New York back to California. And we did not know, it was about a 65 Ford something or other that had been a New York City taxi cab. And it was Evan and me to drive, and Evan's friend, who was our road manager. And I told them, I didn't discuss it. I told them, we're going to take the southern route because I have a standing ovation from Elvis himself that if I was ever in Memphis, come to Graceland. So when we drove down, got outside of Memphis, after breaking down 3 times already, the 3rd time outside of Memphis, we had to leave the car for a while I was communicating with them, and they told me to come to this. I don't know, am I taking too long?
No, go ahead. We want to know.
Oh, okay. They told me to come to the theater at midnight, that I'm on the list. So we did. And I don't want to take more time, but I saw Elvis in the theater and went and said hi, and it was some movie he'd already seen. So he said to me, if you believe this, he says, oh, he just called me Pigtail. He says, Pigtail, do you want to see this movie? I said, he said, I've seen it a couple of times. He said, I'm going back to Graceland. He says, you can follow us back to Graceland if you want, or you can finish watching the movie. Hard choice, right? So we left the theater and followed Elvis to Graceland, and his uncle Vester at the time was controlling the gate. And behind Elvis's car, he closed the gate on us, and Elvis had to go out and tell Uncle Vester that we're with him. I thought that was great. Anyway, so Elvis gave us a tour of Graceland, and we sat around talking, blah, 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 blah. And so then, got over to California. We're out of Memphis. This is the next year. And Dr. West broke up, but Evan knew Wavy and Jaw, a place they had in Hollywood, the apartment. Isn't that right?
Lemon Grove?
Yeah,
Lemon Grove
Lemon
Avenue?
Grove. Yeah, that one. And so Evan knew those guys were there. Well, in the meantime, he had rented for $1 a year this property in Topanga Canyon that was called Evan's Commune, and it became a wonderful hippie place, and that had structures on the sides, but we all lived there anyway. And when the sheriffs come and just to turn on the property, just to turn around, we thought it was time to go. And in the meantime, I think Wavy and Ja had invited Evan to come live at the Hog Farm. And this was, I think, was after, yeah, someone's wedding. So we did. So that's how we got to the Hog Farm. After Elvis, after Dr. West, and after the Topanga Canyon, we got to the Hog Farm. Yay! That's enough.
Okay.
I took up too much time.
Sorry.
Thank you, Bunny.
Oh, you're welcome.
Who wants to go next?
I can go.
I can get it over with
Okay.
quick.
Name first.
Erica, and I'm at the Hog Farm. in New
Erica, come close so I can see your face. Thank you.
I was in New York on the Lower East Side, and had with some friends, but we'd taken some mushrooms, and there was a riot going on at St. Mark's and 2nd Avenue. It got out, and it was the New York City motherfuckers, and I got swept up in this movement and ended up in the loft at the Hog Farm loft. And the next day, they were getting on the buses to go out to Narrowsburg. So I got on the bus and went with them. And my first day there, Susan said, help us cook dinner. And it was carrot soup from Pegasus's food. And so I was stirring the soup and pulled up the ladle, and there was a kid's paintbrush in it. And then we were getting the buses together, and one of them was the new US bus. And I really wanted to drive, but girls didn't drive the bus. So it was either Bryce or somebody. One of the checkered demons said, well, if you want to drive the bus, you have to bleed the brakes. So they made me get under the bus, and they got brake fluid all over me. And but Red Dog let me drive the bus because he was on the US bus. And then we ended up going to Aspen Meadows, where they had the great bus race. And I drove the US bus and placed first in the great bus race.
Yay!
And then we ended up buying the property in New Mexico. And from there we went to Woodstock, and life really began. So I'll make it short and just say, I wish all you other folks were with us. Love you so much. Off to someone else.
Thank you.
Ja, you gonna go next?
I can go.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Jean, formerly Bonnie Jean, currently Johanna. And
Hi, Bonnie Jean.
I've been married to the same man for 58 years. And is he here? Did he?
Yeah,
we
he's still-
lost him. We
he's
just
still-
lost
still on the way.
I have news.
I don't know.
I've been married to
Okay,
him.
I got a text message from Baba Red Hat. He said, Bryce is chatting up Wavy and I'm listening. And I wrote back and said, get your butts up here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we just found my husband again. I was married to this guy named Hugh, and we were living in West Hollywood at Lemon Grove with a few other people, and I guess Bonnie Z, which one is them? You?
No, not on Lemon Grove.
Okay, who remembers Lemon
What,
Grove?
didn't Helena live on Lemon Grove with you?
Who?
Helena lived on Lemon Grove.
Helen.
Tiny-
Yes,
Tiny
okay.
Tim.
So
Tiny Tim
there
lived
were
on
a few
Lemon Grove.
people hanging out with us at this small apartment, and a bus pulled up, and it had the Merry Pranksters on it. And they assumed, and they were correct, that they could get off the bus. The Grateful Dead, who was then a different name of band. And that other band was called the
Warlocks.
The Warlocks, thank you. And they all poured into this place that we were staying. And they had the bus outside. And then we commenced life together on Lemon Grove till someone showed up and said, there's a place for rent next to me in Sunland, California, for some obscure, terrible, cheap place out in the country.
Andy
So
Goldberg.
we said, we have too many people here. So we rented that place in Sunland. And we were next door to the person that I had known previously. And while we were staying there, all of us sleeping indoors and outdoors and on the roofs, and including the pranksters and the dead. And somebody came in and said, the guy that lives on the land, the property above us, has had a stroke, and there is nobody to feed the pigs. And they have a big house that there's room for more people than in our actual 1-bedroom cottage out in the country. And we had a couple goats, and we had baggage. And so we could have this place to use for a while if we would feed the pigs. And Claude Doty didn't want to have to come down and feed his pigs anymore. He owned the land. So we all moved to this piece of land. And then we got interesting, and we started having events on the Sundays so that people could know that they could show up Sundays and we'd be ready for visitors. Because otherwise there was just random people showing up all the time. And so more and more people came to the Sunday events, and some of us stayed and never left and are here in this room right now. And so we moved to the farm that people called the Hog Farm, because it was us and the hogs, and the neighbors were very upset that we were there. You may remember, some of you, the nasty neighbors that would guard the outside. When we left the actual Hog Farm property, we would have to go through people standing along on the highway with guns, waiting for us to do something nasty, which of course we didn't do.
Even on the back
So
road?
that was the beginning of me landing at the Hog Farm. And pieces of that group of people remain here with us today. And we went on to all these other adventures that you all know about. What do you want to hear about? Anything that I haven't thought of? We have.
Let's do the going around,
Yeah,
and then we
yeah,
can loop
I've
back
stopped
to what
it.
happened
Hello.
after that first.
Ask some questions if you want to know later. Bye-bye.
So I'll go next. So I got connected with the Hog Farm.
Is this David? Who's
Yeah,
speaking?
David LeBrun speaking. And I was making, I was 20 years old, making a movie, 22, making a movie in Mexico about Mexican rituals. And I had lived in Mexico as a kid when my father was artist in residence at this art school called the Instituto Allende in San Miguel de Allende. And so after shooting the mushroom ceremony in Huautla de Jimenez on 16mm, I came back to San Miguel, and I wanted to screen my dailies. And I went to the Instituto and said, could I get a room and a use of a 16mm projector and have a screening? And I invited all the other hippies and odd people who were living around San Miguel, and 50 people showed up to this room on the Instituto grounds and saw the dailies. And one of them was Helena Hartshorn, and who was traveling around Mexico, having been doing Mexico for the acid tests. She was traveling around Mexico with a pickup truck, an overhead projector, and a bunch of liquids, doing light shows and bars, and in school and in elementary schools with her 3-year-old son, Stuart. And one thing led to another. She and I had that night together. And then I took off for the United States, but I kept sending her, I was very enamored and started sending her letters and poems and stuff. And she ended up back in the States and not quite knowing what to do about this guy who kept importuning her, but she didn't respond much. And then Jahanarov saw the letters and said, "This guy, you get this guy. He'll be a good husband. He'll be a good dad for Stuart. Get this guy." And so they arranged for us to go out. We went out on a date. Hamilton Camp babysat Stuart that night, and then I ended up back at it was the same week that Claude Doty showed up and said, "Can we, gave us the Hog Farm to stay in." So I went from being a UCLA student, working on my 16mm project, to being suddenly living on the Hog Farm and deciding that my school project would be about this interesting group of people that I'd begin with. And that's where it started.
I'd like to make a suggestion, please, from a remote person. Please zoom in on everybody's face. I want to see your faces. Some people are in the shadows, and
We can't. We don't have any
Can-
control. We don't have any control over that. People
Okay.
can walk closer to the camera and we can do that.
But why don't
Okay.
you put a chair
Not-
up here maybe or something?
Yeah, but I understand the problem. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can someone put,
Automatically or something?
hang on a minute. Let's try something here.
can someone put their hand?
Who's
Did you just said people?
I can't see LeBron's face at all. He's in the
That
shadow.
doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It's fine.
All right.
Laura,
Well, let's see where
I'd be
I'm.
glad to tell my version of the story. You want
Yeah,
to?
go ahead.
Okay, so in 1965, I was in high school and I decided to go find Ken Kesey in the hills above where I lived. And instead, I found Paul Foster living in a
Is
treehouse.
anyone talking?
So
This is gonna be the
sometime
first-
late, and he told me to come to the longshoremen's, and he told me this, and come and see me. And then in the spring, he told me, "Oh, come to
I'm not
LA.
hearing anything.
There's gonna be an event at it was a Phantom Cabaret." And so there it was in the I went to the house on Lemon Grove, and Tiny Tim lived there. Neil Cassidy was there, Paul Foster, and Hugh Romney. So then I went off to college for a year, but I kept in touch. And then in 1968, I was going to Chouinard Art School in Los Angeles and found out about these happenings up on the hill and got back together with Paul Foster. And by the end in that summer, we went on the bus. And what Paul Foster told me about, he said he was living with Marcia in this van outside of Hugh and Bonnie Jean's house in Sunland. And Claude Dowdy came by and said, "Oh, you shouldn't have to live in a van. You should, if you fed the hogs, you can come up and live on my farm." And Paul said, do you mind if I bring a few friends? So that's the way he tells the story. So,
All right, I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna interrupt because we have people arriving and it's too hard. We gotta get them in and quiet it down before we can go on. But it'll be just a minute. All right, carrots. Let us go back to Laura, please.
oh, really? Well, I kind of told my story. The punchline was that Claude Dowdy said, "You shouldn't be living here. If you take care of the hogs, you can live at my farm for free." And Paul Foster said, "Do you mind if I bring a few friends?"
Who was one of those friends?
Yeah.
So
So,
who else, who has not spoken, who's out there remotely? Roy,
Me.
you haven't spoken yet, right?
no, I have
Laura,
not
you-
spoken yet.
Go ahead.
I'll be very brief. Okay, I was 18, dropped out of college, went to San Francisco because I heard something was happening out there and I wanted to check it out. Went to San Francisco and with a girlfriend, Linda Honey, who was then later with the Hog Farm. Some of you may remember Linda Honey from New York. Anyway, we drove to New Mexico where I met this little group of people, about 6 of us, who lived in a little house. And a truck comes by with a bunch of hippies one day and says, the hog farm's in town, the hog farm's in town. And I didn't know who the hell the hog farm was, but I piled in the truck and we went up to, I think, what was Aspen Meadows. I know we were there a second time with the bus race and all that, but I think this was Aspen Meadows again. I'm not sure where it was. It was a beautiful meadow. In my mind, I'm remembering it as Aspen Meadows. And we had a beautiful few days. It could have been a week. It could have been a day. I don't know how long it was, but it was fantastic. And Butch and Fred came back with me and my group and stayed in my house for, I think, a week. And it was just an idyllic little house. And there was Butch and Fred. I had my old man with me and a few other people, not many. And Butch and Fred just played, and that was, you know, my introduction to the hog farm. And then cut to 6 months later, I'm back in New York City because it was really cold in New Mexico. I go home to mom and dad and I hear the hog farm's in town. And somehow it was a huge, huge snowstorm. And somehow I made my way, I didn't know where they were. I made my way to Elizabeth Street and Houston in the city where Calico lived. Her name was Elizabeth then.
Ah,
I went up to that loft, Elizabeth's loft. It was on Elizabeth Street and Houston. And I never left. I met Barry, and I never left the hog farm. I mean, in my heart, I'm still with the hog farm, still wearing the hog farm t-shirt. So that was me. And another aside.
me too.
Yeah, I know. All, we're kindred spirits. In that little house, I was living with a woman named Linda Kasabian. You guys, she was my closest friend. Linda, we lived together for like 6 months. And poor thing, you know, she was just looking for God, and she met Charlie Manson, and that's enough.
Jesus.
I called my mother one day, and I'd been writing to her about everything I'm doing, and Linda Kasabian. I called her, and she said, "Your friend Linda Kasabian is in the news with Charlie Manson, and they murdered yada yada." I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my dear sweet friend was in that. But luckily, I met the hog farm, and she met Charlie Manson, and that was our fate. And I thank God I met you and went that away.
Okay, all right, you guys keep going. Steve Martin,
So-
call me again.
How about Rick?
Steve, what's
your remote and you haven't spoken
Okay.
yet?
Hello.
Okay, I can talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sign out and come back in and I'll
By the way,
watch.
by the
I
way,
know, but I don't see you in the waiting room.
Wait a
Sign
minute,
out.
wait
Let me,
until Andy's
it's
through.
coming in again.
Yeah. Hold a second. Andy's having
All right.
tech problems.
No, we're gonna keep on moving.
What?
We're gonna keep on moving. It's, I gotta get Steve Martin back in. He dropped out. So somebody here.
Yeah, Patrick was gonna speak.
Oh, go ahead.
Who's about to talk?
Okay. I'll mention before I tell my story, I'll just mention that I was standing behind Wavy when he kicked Charlie Manson out of the hog farm.
Yay!
I'll just mention that.
Can I ask
um,
something? Do you guys know how Charlie Manson got up to the hog farm?
Yeah, yes,
No, you don't.
up the back road.
No. He got up there by my invitation
Oh, really?
because I traveled on his bus for a month.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew Linda too.
You knew Linda. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rick. I think not anyone really knows how he got up there. But he wouldn't come out of the bus because he felt too much goodness around there.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And he objected to us quitting the circle joke. He wanted it to go on all night. Anyway, let me tell my story. I belonged to a small group, a little commune in Tahonga, Sunland area in 1965, 66. We were acid test followers. I met Paul Foster at one of the acid tests. We went down to see Timothy Leary down in Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. And the Grateful Dead were supposed to play. And Paul was there. The Dead didn't play. And Paul gave me a note to give to the Dead if I saw them, to meet them out in Joshua Tree, to meet the bus, the prankster bus out in Joshua Tree. And so the dad didn't show up. We took the note. We went out to Joshua Tree, me and Bodie and Queen of the Greek, and met Wavy out there. Met Paul Foster there with Marcia. Everyone was goofing. Easy passed out the acid. Finally, after a couple of hours, the cops came. And the cops were interviewing everybody off all over the desert. I wrote a story about this. My first bus trip, I sent it to Andy. I'll send it to anybody that wants it. But my car broke down and the cops let us go, actually. And they followed us. They actually followed us to the state line and let us go. My car broke down and I had to get on Kesey's bus. That was my first bus trip. And they drove me up to Wavy and Jaw were living up in Sandy Goldberg's place, the place that you mentioned before the Hog Farm. This was a few weeks before the Hog Farm at Claude Doty's. And we'd visit up there. Stoney lived next door. I remember taking an acid trip with Stoney, and Stoney was working with the horses. It was really funny. So Paul, within a few weeks, Wavy and Jaw founded the Hog Farm. Paul Foster invited us up there. Me and a few of the Red Dog was one of us. Patton Parks was one, another one he didn't say. And that was when I joined the Hog Farm. Came up there and never left. Really, I still feel part of the family. I love you all. That's my
Oh, back at you.
And
This thing builds up your mouth.
I wrote a number of stories about going to Woodstock. So other stories that I'd like to send to you anytime I can communicate by email. I still communicate by email. You guys have my email, and I'd be happy to send the stories to you anytime or talk with you. Love you all.
Didn't Kesey write the story of that same Joshua Tree trip as the introduction to the Hog Farm movie book, the Hog Farm book? Wasn't there an introduction by Kesey or a story he wrote about that, Wavy? About everybody about further being out in Joshua Tree and the cops coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the Hog Farm book.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Same event.
tormented him into writing the book.
So who else had not spoken? Oxygen.
I have.
But,
Oh, Sandy has.
Sandy? Okay, Sandy.
Sandy, go for it. Yeah,
Sandy
come up
was-
here. Let's see if this will work.
Sandy was one of that group in the Sunland Tahunga area that we knew.
Yeah,
Right.
the baby angels you called us.
Yeah, the birds.
Which you guys, the rattlesnake clan?
All right, Sandy,
Yeah, those guys. And then the American Gypsies.
Right.
let's see what's happening
I
here.
thought they were the rattlesnake clan.
It doesn't
What?
quite fit. Let me see if I can get it around to where it'll pick you up. But Sandy, start talking.
Okay, I was one of the young girls. I met the American Gypsies, which was Rick and Red Dog and a bunch of them. We used to walk by their house, and then we kind of got taken in. But we were jailbait, I was the oldest, I was 15, I think. And so we got to know them, like before the Hog Farm was up on the hill. And we kind of got sucked in, us girls thought it was great. And they were cool to us, looked after us, kind of. And so when I got on the bus was a week after my 18th birthday, and I went with Jan and Bryce. We went and drove to Santa Fe, broke down and had all these things. It was perfect, And so then we caught up with the buses as they were leaving New Mexico and heading east. So we caught up and headed east with them.
To Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah, in Colorado. After the summer in New Mexico, I was still jailbait. I couldn't go. And then went east with the farm.
Wow.
So it started out as, I was in high school like Suzovich. She was one of our high school group. And here we still are.
Yeah. Nice.
And it was Rick. He was one of the first ones I met. And still is like a big brother to me, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna come see you. I am. I'm gonna make it.
Me too, me too.
In Hawaii.
I
So-
guess that's for me.
So who has not spoken?
Bryce.
Jean,
All right, we are coming around. We are coming around to oxygen.
Jean and LeBron haven't spoken.
Okay, here it goes.
Oh.
Hey, you've already heard my shit, but I'm gonna.
You wanna
sing
hear it again?
Okay, here we go. I'm sitting down here.
Go ahead, sit down.
All right. God damn. I'm a movie star. Okay, ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Let's see, I was probably 16, 17 years old, and I heard around town there's some of these weirdos living up at old Doty's Hog Farm up there. And so my buddy Jan, Dale, Rhodey, Dennis, they kind of ran into Rick. They were like the gypsies down on St. Esteban Street. I think that was the connection. And so anyway, with my buddies there, we went up to the hog farm one night. Oh, take it back. I think Rick and some of the gypsy guys, Jan and his band, they had a 3 or 4 piece band, you know, rock and roll. And they were playing down on Sunland Boulevard down there somewhere, at the Veterans or something. And I think Rick and some of the guys were driving on by and they heard some rock and roll music. So they pulled into this little place, and that's how I think it was a connection between the hog farm, or at least the gypsies there on San Esteban, and Jan and all the buddies. So we kind of worked our way up to this hog farm, you know. Up to those weirdos, you know. No, we didn't feel that.
So, all right, so you go up there for the first moment.
Yeah.
And the first moment that you ever see those weirdos, what's in your mind? What did you see?
Didn't know. You know, of course, here's the thing. When you're a young kid and somebody's a few years older than you, Christ, they're old, you know what I mean? And especially, you know, people who are 30 years old, God, they're ancient, you know,
Right.
so it was unusual. But then, I don't know.
But unusual in a way that
Well, we were just
that
cruising
excited
on-
you, or you're intrigued, or, you know, I
Well-
mean, some people got real scared when they saw those weirdos. That's what I'm wondering about.
Well, probably a little uneasy, but you know, I was cruising my lowered '56 Buick, listening to Louie Louie down San Fernando Road. So that's where I was at, you know.
So it was pretty much the same.
Yeah, so I didn't know too much, but then thank God I ran into these people, and then they rounded us up a job at a Rocket gas station there in Sunland Boulevard near the Sunland Park, and so we were. You know, pumping gas and all that shit, smoking dope, and and right across the street they built this new shopping center. It had a Ralph's supermarket, it was on an old Thrifty and all that shit. And at Thrifty Mart, you could buy a gallon, in a glass gallon of Red Mountain Burgundy. So Jan and his buddies, we used to kind of fix the books a little bit. We didn't steal nothing. We didn't steal, but we kind of shuffled around the numbers. If you bought like something like 20 gallons, 30 gallons, then you got it at a discount. So every now and then, once a week or so, we'd look for that old discount. We'd go across the street and buy a gallon of Red Mountain, you know, and we'd drink it down there at the old Rocket station, you know. It was 25.9 cents. I remember it's 25.9 for regular. Anyway, we partied there, and once in a while the cops would show up looking for people and all that stuff, and they'd sniff around, you know, and we were clean. They never busted us, you know. It was close.
Did Davy Rocket get his name from the Rocket
Yeah,
gas station?
Davy Rocket worked there.
Yeah.
You're right, little
yeah.
Davy Rocket, man, old Dave Thorpe.
amazing.
Yeah.
You guys bought the Roadhog there.
Where?
Jan found the road hog somewhere, he was playing music somewhere.
Yeah, told me a story about that. That he found it maybe down in Venice or something.
Yeah, it was down there somewhere.
$199.
Yeah, it was a used bus set. I went down there, I think, one or twice to
You're
pick up
talking about Jarrett's used bus sales?
Was it Jared's?
That's where we bought our buses.
I don't-
Jarrett's used bus sales.
It's maybe that was it.
Yeah,
I was down there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, they found the old road hog. You know, and it was only run on 5 cylinders. There was valves out of it or something. But got it up to Sunland gas station. He did the valves on it and got all 6 running again, and somehow hit the road. You know, I think it was around 1968.
Yep.
I think we hit the road around 1968.
I think in fairness, we
It
have
was
to.
the summer
We
before.
keep
I
it
hate to say
moving.
it, we have to move on.
I know. Hey, I could bullshit here all day. Okay, people. Thank you.
And I was one of the weird people up on the hill. And somebody knew somebody from that group. He was speaking, knew somebody from our group. And then sent Patton Parks up to the hill because Wavy Gravy had requested 10 days of macrobiotic food. And they wanted to know if someone was cooking it up the hill, could they all come up and have dinner there for 10 days? And that was how, to me, that was how our crew met their crew. I made the macrobiotic food for 9 days, and then I stepped out.
So that's where the rattlesnake clan came for that?
That's how the rattlesnake
Let me
clan
ask you a
came up the
question,
hill.
Because I asked Bryce the other way around. What did you guys make of these kids coming up the hill?
We wanted to make sure whether they were dangerous or not. Me? They were very dangerous. We all fell in love with them. And I don't know, to me it was just one family after that. I didn't think anything else of them.
No, just that first moment.
Did they talk
Who are these
interesting? Bryce talked real interesting. He's the first person to ever call me grandma.
Yeah, they called us grannies.
Lots of people do now.
And Patton already had that fully collaged van
Yes.
coming up the hill. That was
He dropped us off in front of the high school.
We asked Oxygen to come sit up in the chair here.
Where was I? You can come back.
You were in
Where were you?
No.
In some alternate reality.
You were with Kesey.
No, we were with the Casey. Well, we had our white bus. We were, up and down the coast for a couple years, and but anyway, we were at Casey's, and then I think we caravanned with Babs and Gretchen in their Fort home, and went to Aspen Meadows, and in 1968 joined up.
So you got there for the summer solstice.
We got there for the summer solstice.
Yeah. What were you doing before you ever saw a hog, and when did you first see the hogs?
Well, I was living in Ypsilanti, and it was just on the northern border, Ypsilanti, southern border of Ann Arbor. I was being a janitor at the University of Michigan East Engineering Wing. And one of my roommates brought home a flyer, and then another day or two later, they brought Pegasus over because we had a shed in the backyard. We put Pegasus in the shed, and she proceeded to bash out one wall and escape to a subdivision development. And Hog Farmers had to come and help catch her, got her corralled again. And I went to the second show at the Student Union Ballroom, and there I saw a guy with a orange plastic cone on his head folded over with a bolt so it stayed folded, and it had hockey skates on. And he was dancing on those hockey skates looking like he was about ready to fall over backwards.
We know who that was.
And then I saw Sue. Remember Wilson and Sue?
Yeah.
Sue was walking across the floor picking her nose. And there's this dome, and it had light going like this. It had a laser on a membrane that was bouncing it around. And so it was flashing these patterns on the dome. I had a lovely time. It was great. I had to be part of it.
And
I
so how did you
followed
make-
them.
How'd you do that?
I went to the place called the Tri-House Co-op, and I sat on the couch in the entryway, and my thing was telepathy. I was sure that I heard people talking, and I was trying to get my mind clear and hear what was being said. But I never really did too well at that, but I stayed up all night. And, well, one guy that was rooming at my little place came and said, well, I owe you $70 for rent. I said, nah, keep it. Turns out I should have taken it because White Rabbit was saying, you should have took that money. We could use that. And I got in a little bit of trouble with Ja because her little brother came and talked to me at that little house. And he wasn't really a candidate for LSD, but I had LSD and he found out about it. And he eventually talked me out. He said it wasn't for him, it was for somebody else.
Yeah, sure.
And I gave him a couple of hits. He took it back to the Tri-House Co-op, and Ja found out about it, and Pat didn't like me too much because, but it worked out because everybody was leaving, you know, and I was thinking, oh no, they're getting away, I'm gonna be here. And went out and stood by the Queens Midtown Tunnel of Love near the front door. And Peter White Rabbit was there, and Bonnie, Jahanara was there and saying, we don't want him here. We don't want him. And White Rabbit said, well, he could ride on my bus. He always got his coat, and that's good with me. And that's where I met Juna. He was babysitting Juna. Juna was living on a bus. You know, I can't remember anybody else that lived on that bus, but White Rabbit and me and Juna. And we all eventually, I mean, pretty soon, we drove to Barry Kalish's house. Barry Kalish had bought a bus, took the seats out, and went to an abandoned sponge factory, and we got a whole bunch of sponges and glued them to the floor. I mean, there was no seats left, but when you were going down the road, you had unfirm fittings, spongy fit, you know, your foot would bounce. So it was really hard to stay upright. It was easier to crawl around. Yeah, we had a really wise idea. You cut a hole in the roof and put in a wood stove in there. And we lit up a fire and went down the road, but we hit a bump and the door on the wood stove popped open and the air pushed down through the door and we had a big old fountain of a blowtorch, but giant, into the interior of the Just bus. We proceeded to go to Binghamton, I think. We went on the way there. We were supposed to meet with the theater, the Living Theater. We stopped at this house, farmhouse. Living Theater didn't make it.
That's
but
right.
we waited for them. But the cops showed up, and they took Peter and Paul off of the Queens Midtown Tunnel of Love because there was a pipe with a 1/4 gram of ash in it. Then we proceeded to keep on going to New York City, where we met and stayed with Elizabeth, better known as Calico.
Later.
And we stayed in her loft. And did a lot of odd jobs. I can remember riding around with Butch delivering fried chicken.
I took orders
In a car. He got a car somewhere. Butch would get vehicles, I don't know how. He would get vehicles, he would borrow them. One time he borrowed a motorcycle, had me get on the back, and we went to his parents' house and I met his mom and dad.
Really?
Oh.
Where was that? Where did they live?
I don't know exactly where he lived, but I think his last name was Hawkshurst.
Hawkshurst, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Was this in New York?
no, this was in California.
Oh.
Who's speaking?
That's Baba Red Hat's
Baba Red
talking
Hat.
right now.
It's me, Steve.
Baba Red Hat.
That's me, Steve. How are you?
Oh, I'm wondering. I'm good, thank you.
You look great.
So has everyone spoken? Wavy has not spoken. Nope.
has spoken.
I haven't spoken.
Oh, Steve. Steve.
Steve,
Yeah,
yeah.
Steve.
Where's Steve? Then wait.
Steve, speak.
Steve, you want to go?
Am I on?
Yeah.
You're on.
I'm at the Hog Farm in Sunland, where I was raised. And Stephanie Prentiger first introduced me to Patton Parks and Rick when they were living on St. Esteban, I think. And she was the one that brought me to the Hog Farm. And I don't know what I was doing then. I was either in school or had started San Francisco State. I mean, not Valley State. But in any event, I ended up with Stephanie driving to our first camping area outside of Santa Fe. And the El Rico, El Valle, were there hot springs in El Valle?
No,
That was in Jeanette.
just a river.
Jemez Hot Springs.
Well, in any event, I ended up somehow getting on a bus. I was on the Roadhog, I was on the Just Bus. And that's how I met the Hog Farm. And then I just want to remind everyone that there's a new special on Sly and the Family Stone. I don't know if you remember when we got hired to work in the nightclub in New York City for a week.
The electric
Just be there. Yes, the electric circus. Oh my goodness, that was fun. And and of course I have great memories with all of you, including getting high on DMT with Ken Kesey and Paul Foster. So yeah, I love you all. You've made such an impact on my life. I'm lucky I was raised in Sunland.
And
Sunland turned out to be quite an education. And I believe was living in that same house with Patton Parks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's it. That's how I met. And I met, I joined the show. And, here we are.
Here we are. We are here. Wavy, you're up. Can we push Wavy in a foot or two?
Sure.
Just, we're rolling you in for your close-up.
Are we rolling, Wavy?
Yes, sir.
The wheel needs to.
1, 2, 3.
Coming in, incoming.
Look at this. Look at this.
Wavy, it's a gravy.
All right, hold it there. He's in his light. Turn him a little bit.
What?
Turn him a little bit towards the light. There you go.
Okay, all right,
All right, Gravy,
you're on.
here's your camera. You're on. This is your camera over here.
I was Hugh Romney then, I think. Such a serious name for such an outlandish fellow. But I managed to roll with it until where did I turn into Wavy Gravy? Ja!
On a stage somewhere.
On a
I
stage.
think it was a free stage.
Dallas Pop Festival.
Oh,
front
Dallas
stage.
Pop Festival.
So,
you're
so
right.
what was that story? I always have part of that story.
Amnesia!
BB
No,
King.
What,
it
what,
was BB King.
what was the back and forth?
Wavy introduced me to Johnny Winter and BB King, and then they put the stretcher up on the stage, and BB King says, "Don't step on the Wavy Gravy."
That's right.
And
and
that's how we got the name.
There it came, BB King, you Wavy Gravy. I said, yes, sir. And I've been Wavy Gravy ever since.
Wavy played the Renaissance Club in Hollywood somewhere
Yes.
around 1965.
I was Hugh Romney then.
Opposite Thelonious Monk.
Yep.
Wow.
What a treat.
Wow.
His middle name is Sphere, by the way. Thelonious Monk's middle name. And it was a thrill. And I just made stuff up and got paid to do it. And then what happened?
And then what happened? You were looking for a place to live.
Yes, on Miller Drive, it was the John Law house. And that's where Jack Elliott locked me in the closet and read to me from the Horse Lover's Guide for about 3 days.
And were you fundamentally changed by that?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of it. Were you there then?
Not yet,
Not yet.
Where did you meet Joe?
but I had similar.
But I went to, the neighborhood playhouse with John Law. And I met Tom later.
But you met Ja at Fred C. Dobbs.
Yeah, she put peanuts in my hamburger.
So,
And I fell in love. And that's the truth.
We had friends together, and I would be with my group of friends, and I would hear them talk about Hugh Romney and his wife Lily at the time. So that's how I learned about him. And when I was still a high school kid in Minnesota, I was enamored with all of the people I knew to be beatniks in New York, none of whom I knew until Hugh Romney came to Minneapolis one time. And I tried to line up to see him, but I wasn't 18 yet. And so I just waited in the attached grocery store so that when he walked out of where he was working, I would get to see him. And he went out a back way. But I found
But he didn't get away.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. It was just one of the beatniks in New York that I wanted to I wanted to meet one of those poets that I read. Honest to God, had no idea. But we finally met and we took a shine to each other.
What city did you meet in?
We probably, by that time, we probably met in West Hollywood
Or no?
when I was old enough to go into a club.
Well, hey, Wavy, Bonnie Z here. I first met you when you were living in some small apartment with Lily.
Who?
And where?
Your wife, Lily, and you were selling pieces of the moon. You were selling property on the moon to people.
On the moon, yes. We were
Yes.
selling moon.
Right, and what
stuff.
they received were collage pictures of the moon that was their property. Right, and do you remember Danny? He's the one who brought me there.
Who?
Danny, the gay guy. We used to call him Danny the fag, but we don't use that word anymore.
The fag. Oh, no.
Oh, well, that was a long time ago. It's okay.
It
Oh,
sure was.
one more thing about the Sunlit Tahunga hog farm. I think I have the only thing that remains of Pegasus, and that's a scar on the knuckle of my index finger on my right hand where Pegasus bit me, being impatient for me to put the food down because I was the animal commissioner. I still have the scar. Hey.
But we were given the mountaintop rent free if we would slop the hogs. They needed somebody to slop the hogs, so we would get this garbage from restaurants, and the pigs would swallow it. Everything, they wouldn't touch the broken glass or silverware, but otherwise they ate the garbage. And this was how we were able to move into the mountaintop and live creatively.
Wavy, I just saw you on television last night or the night before, a Bob Dylan documentary, and you were with Tiny Tim and some other guy in
Moondog.
Gertie's Folk City in New York City, in Greenwich Village, Cafe Wa, Gertie's Folk City, and there you were, a big close-up of your face with these two other guys. It was wonderful. You were Hugh Romney then.
Tim and Moondog, the Phantom Cabaret.
Right. Okay.
I never knew you did the Phantom Cabaret on both coasts. You did it was Phantom Cabaret in New York and in LA. Wow.
Yep, it was a great show.
Del Close.
And Tiny Tim was the opener. And he was a descent into the cathedral of the Philco radio. That was true.
Gene, how come you left your acting career?
But Moondog thought Tiny Tim was a sissy. What?
I do too.
My acting career? I remember nothing.
I left my acting career because the bus was pulling away, and I either had to not get on it or get on it. And I'm still on the bus.
But you were I was teaching acting at wherever that was, Columbia Pictures.
Yes, you were.
I was teaching improvisation.
You were teaching what?
Improvisation. And I got to be buddies with Harrison Ford then. He was one of my students.
He did do well.
Pretty well.
And one thing just led to another. And next thing you know, I'm living in a giant bus for the rest of my life.
Okay, Skidoo.
Oh,
Skidoo.
Otto Preminger was making a movie called Skidoo, and we were all hired as extras in that movie.
And it funded the bus trip.
You sure did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you know that he picked out the 5 freakiest of us was Evan with his real long beard and me with the weird clothes I was wearing. And I don't know, 3 other people. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But I was honored to be yelled at by Otto Preminger because we were supposed to be dancing in the background. And I had this black velvet cape that I had lined with hundreds of scarves, safety pinned on the inside. And when I was dancing around, some of the scarves kept getting caught on the cupboard door. And so we had to keep stopping the shooting. And so that happened 2 or 3 times. And I got yelled at by Otto Preminger.
Oh,
With a German
very
accent.
cool. What was the Cisco Pike?
But Francois was who was really once more for Francois. Remember that?
Do it again. Do it again.
Oh, yes.
We must see it one more time.
One more time for the camera.
For Francois.
Who was Francois?
Francois.
The cameraman.
What was
Oh,
his
okay.
last name?
No,
he
he
was
was
the
the-
director. Are you kidding?
No, Bill Norton directed. Bill Norton wrote it and directed it, I believe.
No, no, no.
You're talking
but
about
Francois
Reichenbach. We've moved on to Medicine Ball Caravan.
Oh, I thought we were in Cisco.
Francois
Francois
Reichenbach.
Reichenbach, yeah.
Yeah.
We skipped movies, yes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, no.
Somewhere in the stars, it all comes together.
So Cisco
Oh, no,
Pike,
they invited us.
Cisco Pike was starring Chris Christopherson. And remember Jahanara?
Karen Black.
Right, Jahanara, you and
Karen
I
Black.
had a speaking scene down sitting on some driftwood on the beach, and we were supposed to just make up a conversation between the two of us. And Max was just several months old at the time, and I was nursing him. And while we were talking, the cameraman was doing close-ups of Max nursing.
Max.
Max,
Baby Max.
baby Max.
Oh,
And-
yes.
And so all those, that would have been first nursing scenes on US screens, but they were all cut.
They were
And but when we were doing other scenes down there, I don't remember who it was up on the bus babysitting baby Max, and he started crying, and they started showing baby Max naked pictures of women's breasts from those kind of magazines because they thought that would shut him up. It didn't work.
It worked, yes.
No, it didn't work. Anyway.
So back in Skidoo, when you guys were assigned to be the dancing girls, there was this moment when we were all boarding the ship, Mother, with who was Groucho Marx was the head of the mafia, and Jackie Gleason was landing in a hot air balloon made out of Ready Freddy hot dog wrappers from his escape from prison. And Paul Foster, he was supposed to land on the deck in these garbage cans that made the hot air balloon thing, and it's being lowered down. This is Otto Preminger's up on a crane. We're at the dock. We're boarding. It's the biggest scene of the movie, and Paul Foster and I are assigned to go up to Jackie Gleason and lift him out of the garbage can and put him on the deck, where he can then say, "Where's Mother? Where's God? Where's God?" Because Jackie Gleason was called God, and the music is going. Carol Channing in a mini skirt is leading the hippies up, climbing the ropes onto the deck. Paul Foster and I rush forward. The thing comes down on the deck. He and I grab Jackie Gleason by the arms. We're right near the railing. And you can see this in the movie. I later saw it slowed down. Like I made a real slowed down version of this part of the shot. We're trying to lift him up, and he will not come out of the garbage can. The big shot is to the music, and I look down, and his foot is caught under a strut. So I reach down to the garbage can, and I twist his foot 90 degrees sideways, and he shrieks. And I lift up the foot, and Paul lifts him up, and we dump him on the deck, and Paul's going, "How do you do? How do you do?" With his, but on the way, it was very clear. He tilted toward the railing. He almost went off the side of the ship, and Paul Foster caught him, brought him onto the deck, and then said, "How do you do? How do you do?" And Jackie Gleason looked totally crazy, said, "Where's God? Where's God?" And Otto Preminger calls cut. That's the end.
What a story. What a story.
Can't make this stuff up.
No, you cannot make it stuff. It's on film.
Wow, that's amazing. I was only down there a couple
I
of days.
almost
I didn't know you guys were in it.
I almost personally killed Jackie Gleason. Very close. In time for Paul Foster.
No kidding. I didn't know you guys were in that
We
movie.
want you to know every second to replay.
What?
Every second of replay of that item. God, your memory is
Well,
incredible.
I mean,
You have
I
that
constructed the short. I went and got a copy of Skidoo on the 4K, and then for the last Hog Farm reunion, the 50th, I reconstructed that scene. I found the scene and slowed it down.
Oh.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, wonderful. We were probably doing bingo somewhere else. Yeah, we're bingo hosters.
We are climbing Harpo's ladder. Just an opera hat full of yellow chickens. He was a soldier of the clowns. Soldier, do you love my cream pies? Or soldier, do you love my whoopee? Sacred cushion of the clowns. And then came the cream pies. Oh God, that was a mess. Everybody squished cream pies in everybody else's face. Hundreds of people were squishing cream pies on each other.
Which event was this?
What a scene.
What was it, Willie? What event?
Huh?
Where did this happen?
When we were shooting the movie, I don't know.
Oh, which movie? Where we had
This
Skidoo?
Which movie?
This is over a half a century ago.
No, some
I can
movie
barely
somewhere.
remember last week.
We cashed the check and moved on.
Yes.
Hey, does
It's the
anybody
Checker Demons.
does anybody remember who was up at Sunland Tahunga when I had total amnesia? And the first thing, remember, we had a serval gas-powered refrigerator that didn't make ice, and I had been riding on the back of a scooter with Evan, and I guess he forgot I was there. He went over a bump, and I fell back and landed on my head, and I ended up with total amnesia. And I didn't know who I was. I knew who Evan was, but I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't know anything. It was like pure acid, where, you haven't developed yet an ego. and and when I got up to the house, first thing I asked for was some ice for my head. The
I
refrigerator,
don't remember that.
the refrigerator didn't
Water.
make ice.
Yeah, you have water?
I don't.
Hang on, Wavy, stay where you are.
I have some.
Oh,
I'll,
I need
yeah, we'll get,
water.
This stage right there.
Please, somebody,
Erica's
I got just
give
one.
me water.
Okay.
Erica's
You wanna get water?
I can
Is it
see a
cup?
glass in the
Wait,
bathroom.
wait.
there.
all day I face the barren wastes.
Without a taste
of
of
water. Clear
water.
I don't care if it's called even hot water.
Hey, Laura
Give me
has just,
something wet.
What's your hat?
Coming in.
I thought of a story to tell
Yes.
since Rory is here. And it was the first time I met Wavy also. And it was when we came out to Narrowsburg and we took a lot of LSD and we went swimming.
And you saved me from drowning.
I
The
saved-
waterfall, there was a waterfall.
And I had left my I Ching on the bus and Wavy had found it. So when he found out about Rory, that I had somehow magically saved her because I just felt her energy and
Did.
turned around and sort of saw her mouth. I ain't gonna make it.
Right.
And I'm not even a swimmer hardly, but I got her to shore.
You did.
And then Wavy found me with my I Ching and heard about Rory and welcomed me to the family. So
That's the day? Really?
that was the day. Yeah.
Wow. I thought
That's
you
the
were
first time I ever
there.
met Wavy.
Erica, I was with you in the river.
Yes.
Yes, you and me.
Yeah, that was
I thought it
the Delaware River Gap in Narrowsburg, and I was high on acid. We had a rope swing.
Well, and you had
Yes.
a big heavy shirt on.
Big man's work shirt, like a denim work shirt, huge. It was
It
like
weighed
for,
me down.
and it dragged me right down because I couldn't swim, but I was high, and I was in the middle of the river, and I remember mouthing, "Help! I'm drowning!" I didn't say a word, and you and one of the motherfuckers.
It's Andy.
I was there too.
You were there, Sandy, but there was one of the motherfucker women who always wore sari. I thought she was on that opposite side of the river with you, Erica, and I guess Sandy.
Was she
Anyway,
blonde?
She was blonde, yes.
I kind of remember a blonde lady.
Yeah, she was a motherfucker, and I remember the two of you jumping in the river.
Bernadette?
she drug her the rest of the way, swam.
And,
No,
you know,
I did her. I had her, you know, just like you saw
Yeah.
in the life-saving classes, and
yeah,
I-
the two of
and
you drive me
we were really high. It was
really high.
good acid.
Really
I
high.
I got another drowning story.
Oh, that's different.
All the time to drown.
Another hog farm almost drowning story is that in that is the winter spring of 1968, possibly. We all went up from the hog farm to the Kern River. We took the bus up to the Kern River.
Yes.
And we went for a picnic on the Kern River, and it had been raining heavily, so the river was flowing pretty strong. But there was these pools, a kind of set of pools that were quiet, and we all went down to the bank, and we all got in the river. We're floating in the pools, and there came a point where when we're all on acid, and I'm floating in the pool on acid, and I just start to drift out into the main current of the river. And either Dale or Bodie, I just remember the big smile on his face, reaching out a hand and taking my hand just as I'm about to leave the pool and drift into the main current. And then we put on our clothes and took a walk downstream. And about 100 yards downstream, there was a 50-foot waterfall drop off.
Oh,
If it
Wow.
weren't for smiling Dale or Bodie, I would have been history as of 67. Such were the times.
That was our favorite place on the Kern River that we used to go to. And
Yeah.
Patton Parks and myself actually took the hog farm up to this place on the Kern River. And that was a place that we always swam. And we'd swim down the river, but always get out at that place before it went over the waterfall.
Before the waterfall. Oh, yeah, you didn't bother to tell us about the waterfall.
That was critical.
To get rid of some of your friends.
You'd find out soon enough.
Wow.
Didn't talk.
Andy, take the chair. Take the chair.
I'm taking the fifth.
hey, we lost Laura. Where's Laura?
What? Wait, you remember? Yeah.
Yeah, but she was on the Zoom.
I'm
I know.
getting
She's zooming from her room.
Yeah.
She's off screen.
Let me adjust myself.
She may have gone to the library, up to the art museum without me.
David, I know I'm lucky,
That's okay.
but you have a fabulous view of the back of my head.
Yes, marvelous. Blindingly bright.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Romanoff, and I am so fucking glad to be here. God, I am glad to be here. I have been imagining this day, this couple of days for about a year now. I really wanted to put everybody together. I really, really, really wanted to hear the old stories and to hear the stories I had never heard and to see faces I hadn't seen in a long time. And you guys have given it to me in spades. You really have.
The long time
It's a
sun
pitchfork.
shine upon you, all love surrounds you, and the pure light within you shine away. Oh.
And it's taken so long to put this thing together that it's actually my birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
Maybe.
No, today's what, the 15th or 16th?
One of those.
Today's the 13th.
My birthday's the 18th. It's next week.
Yeah.
Oh.
One of those.
And I'm walking into this birthday, 83, so fucking happy. Because it just, everything I imagined it would be. There was an hour and a half of David and me trying to put this goddamn Zoom together where it was going to be in a ballroom and it was going to have this and there was going to be other participants and you can't begin to know. And then it became this.
But on the way there was feedback, so it felt like we were all on nitrous.
Oh, we're going to turn the feedback on before we're finished. So that
Just need the.
But you have to tell the story about when you met the hog farm.
I'm going to tell the story about
Get around
it, but I'm
It's only
cheating. I'm
2
taking
minutes.
a minute to talk about
No,
this.
that's cool.
Because God, am I happy. Thank you all.
Thank
for being
you.
Yeah, thank you.
my dream.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
for
In
organizing.
dreams begin responsibility.
That has haunted me for days. So I met the Hog Farm. I was married to this actress, very beautiful actress. She had begged me not to marry her. She said, "We don't need to get married. We could just keep on fucking." But I was determined to own that person. Well, she was, I know, I'm telling you the truth, because she was that desirable. She was the kind of woman that she wore tight dresses and men would roll down the window and yell at her. And I had to own that woman. And so I did. We got married. And you could imagine it didn't work perfectly. So that lasted
The
about,
owning part,
uh,
the owning part.
yeah, right, yeah. You know, but at one point, in attempting to save the marriage, we decided that maybe we could fix it if we moved to London. So I'm telling you how I joined the Hog Farm, by the way. So we moved to London, and then I really fell apart, because then in London, I landed as an alien spouse. She had been born in Canada, so she landed as a British citizen. She went to work in the movie studios. I couldn't work at all, and I became just an empty person. And I wandered in the streets of London in 1968 when everybody else is partying and having a good time, like that. And so I came back to Chicago. I gave up and I came back to Chicago. And pretty soon I was living in a leather shop down on where the hippies were. And there was three of us living in a leather shop. And one day I walked out of the leather shop and I walked down about a block, and it's winter time and it's cold. And I come around a corner and I see a bus, and it's Butch and it's Roadhog. And I know right away it's the Hog Farm, because I have been reading about the Hog Farm in whatever is the local paper, local freak paper. And so I look over at Butch and I say, he's trying to get it started and he's probably cursing at it. Got the hood up. And I said, "You want me to help you get it started?" He said, "Yeah." So I helped him get the bus started. And once the bus was running, he said, "You want to go for a ride?" And I said, "Yeah." So he took me over to where you guys were staying at Howard Alk's house.
Howard.
Yep, Howard Alk's apartment. And that was where I first met everybody, that was that tiny crew that had come to Chicago. It was 1969 now. You'd come to Chicago, tiny crew, to do the Chicago 8.
Was this the ass?
Yes.
No, this is before the
Oh,
ass.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Chicago 8.
The Chicago 8. So I went to that Chicago 8 benefit, and
Abby Hoffman.
Abby Hoffman, yeah, and turkeys, wavy 50 fucking turkeys.
Under strobe lights.
Under strobe lights.
How did you get 50 turkeys under strobe lights?
Yes, this man.
We had to sign for them.
It was Thanksgiving. That was the reason.
Oh, okay. Of course. Okay.
Yeah. So when that night was over, I was invited to come back to Howard Alk's, and there was acid. And 2:00 in the morning, whatever. Now you do have to understand, I've read about the Hog Farm. I know stuff is going on. And it's not that I haven't been my own freak, but I have not been inside exactly this world. I'm more of a biker than a freak, About 2:00 in the morning, I'm sitting with Wavy, and I've probably been drinking and had acid. And I said, "I'm getting on your bus, man." And he said, "Far out." And then I left, and then you guys left town. And then
Didn't he ask you if you had any money?
I always had $20.
Okay.
No, he didn't ask me if I had any
Didn't
money.
ask you? Okay.
No.
Is this Howard Hawks, the director?
Say again?
Is this person Howard Hawks?
Oh,
Is
no,
that
not
the
Howard Hawks,
director, Howard Hawks?
AUK.
This is Howard, AULK, Howard Alk.
Oh, okay,
He was,
okay.
Famous person.
He was an editor. He edited for Dylan a bunch. And anyway. So,
Okay.
So the Hog, maybe I had some contact information because there's no cell phones or anything. And then I got a job shooting. Somebody wanted me to shoot documentary footage, get on the island where the Indians had taken over in
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. So I flew out to California and I got to San Francisco. But by that time, the feds had the place locked down. And I tried and tried, but I couldn't get out to the island. So I tried making this phone call. I cannot know where I would have made this phone call to, but I called somebody and I heard that Wavy was living or staying on a flower farm down in Santa Cruz.
Yes.
And
Flower farm.
so I stashed the camera and I hitchhiked down to Santa Cruz. I didn't know where. I knew that it was on some road, maybe. But we could do that in those days. Right? We could do that.
That's where we can find them.
So I got on, I took a bus down to Santa Cruz and I hitchhiked down to this road. And by now it's nighttime. And I'm walking down this road in the dark and there's dogs barking and I'm fucking, oh God, what am I gonna do? But eventually I see a little house in the distance and I figure, well, I don't know if it's the right house, but maybe they'll know. And I go and I knock on the door and a guy opens the door and I say, I'm looking for Hugh Romney. Because it was still, I think, Hugh Romney at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking for Hugh Romney. And he says, he's in here, but he's asleep. I said, can I come in? He said, sure, you can sleep on the couch. So I went to sleep on the couch. And when I got up in the morning, the sunlight is streaming through the windows and there's people sitting in the kitchen and they're drinking coffee. And I said, where's Hugh? And they said, he's out there by the bluff. And I walked out and that was the moment that I realized I was in the middle of a flower farm. And as far as you could see, there were flowers. Just, I mean, it was better than drugs, you know? And I walked up the flowers, I walked up the path until I got to this place that overlooked the ocean. And there's Wavy sitting cross-legged, staring out at the ocean. and I sat down and we started talking. And after a while, I said, I want to get on your bus, man. I really want to get on your bus. And he said, okay, we're building a new bus. He said, you know, and you can be on that bus. And so I think I flew back to Chicago, ditched the camera. I had a big toolbox, and I think maybe I had told him that. And
you sure did.
That's how you got time.
So I took a Greyhound back out to LA and I got off with my toolbox, and that was just at the moment when the asp was purchased. And I came down to Long Beach.
By John's father.
Yeah. And stowed the toolbox on the bus, and the guys had already roughed in the carpentry. And so I got to be original crew on it. I had no idea how lucky I was. I had no idea how, you know, how many people wanted on that bus. You know, I said, oh yeah, that's how you do it, you know. So I got on that bus, and that was the beginning of me in the Hog Farm.
I'm gonna ask you something, because I remember that we were on the road and we were on the bus and we had to go out of our way and we went to Chicago.
Right.
And picked you up.
That's because I had gone somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you know me. I got on and off the bus so many times I should have had a transfer. Yeah. Oh God, that shut it down.
Yeah.
So great, all these
Are we storied out, or do other people have tales?
Yeah, what about the Zoomers? Got any more stories?
Any more stories?
Just getting warmed up.
Just some more stories. I have a story.
Oh, he's a good storyteller.
Okay.
I have a story.
Okay,
Go for it.
go for it.
This story goes back to 1979, the Hog Farm story. When Dr. Larry finished his World Health Organization project that eliminated smallpox from the world.
Mhm.
And he came back to Nepal and we kind of looked at each other and said, well, what the hell can we do now? I mean, how do you follow up on that? So Larry went back and started talking to Wavy, and spent about a month later, he shows up and he said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start a project to eliminate preventable blindness, because especially in Nepal, blindness was a vitamin deficiency, as it was many countries the same problem. So we decided to do that project and we started the Seva Foundation. And that's the Grateful Dead and Steve Jobs put up the first $40,000 seed money to start the Seva Foundation. And as of this year, about 600 million people in 30 countries have had their eyesight restored by the Hog Farms project, the Seva Foundation.
Yeah.
Yay.
Not many people know that story.
Yay.
And it's still
Stuff
going.
happens.
600, did you say 600? What?
Million.
600,000?
Wow.
600,000? Yeah, okay.
600 million in 30 countries. That was this year.
Wow, okay. Wow.
Yep.
That started in 1979.
And the beat goes on.
Yeah.
Sure does. And it wasn't none up at Black Oak Ranch. They were doing concerts to raise money. And in 1982, when I came back to California, I was in Petaluma and I went to see Calico at the Seva office. And she said, well, why don't you make a design for us that we could sell t-shirts at all the Grateful Dead shows? I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that's the t-shirt design that we sold at all the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So
I
can we
did
get,
that in 1982, and that sold at all the Grateful Dead concerts probably until they quit touring to earn money for Seva.
can we get 24 of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll do it on paper, not t-shirts. You can have as many as you want.
You know, if you send me that image, a high quality version of that image, and if it's okay with you, I'll arrange, you know, we can get some printed. It costs a few bucks, but to get them printed as t-shirts and delivered,
Yeah. Yeah, we can do it. I can send you the file.
that'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
Great.
Not many people gives the Hog Farm the credit for that.
You know,
but
can
they
I,
deserve it all.
as long as I'm asking for favors, let me increase the ask. Could you make that image and add to it the words, I don't know,
Picture inside.
Hog Farm Desert Hot Springs Reunion?
That's a good t-shirt.
Huh?
That's a good t-shirt.
That'd be a great t-shirt.
Sure I can.
That'd be fabulous.
I'll send you the file, ready to
All
print.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not many people know the Hog Farm did that.
Mm.
And it's all because of Dr. Larry. And when you were talking about Alcatraz, there was a woman there that was pregnant, and Dr. Larry went to Alcatraz Island and helped deliver her baby.
That's right.
Right.
That was a leader's wife.
Is that you, John?
The bit, no, but the mother, the child's name was Wovoka.
You remember the kid's name?
I happened to, yes. But I was not there. Larry delivered that baby and then he talked about him or her. I think
Oh,
it was a
Wavloka.
boy, later,
The
and
baby's name was Wavloka.
Wovoka.
Yeah, something in there.
Yeah, I looked it up to see who he was in the native world, the original Wovoka person,
Yeah.
after who they named the baby.
That's how you remember.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, can I share a memory? With Bonnie
Sure.
Z here, Bonnie Z here. It's on the Nobody bus before it was the Nobody bus. It was on the ASP, and we were at the beginning of making the Medicine Ball Caravan. I was 9 months pregnant, and we had tickets with Air India to get us over at the end of the US portion over to England. Well, on the bus, because I was 9 months pregnant, you know how the fold up shelf that extended the width of the bed. Well, I had to sleep on my left side with my stomach hanging over into the aisle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fit on there at all.
Oh, God.
And when we got to we did the whole tour and we got to the airport, and I carried a big coat over my tummy, and I did not tell them I was 9 months pregnant. I was hoping that I would give birth on the airplane because at the time they were giving free lifetime flying on Air India to anyone who gave birth on their plane.
Oh my God. Oh God.
But it didn't happen, you know. But when we went to Canterbury, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's see, Pink Floyd played, right?
Yes.
And when we were
Glastonbury tour.
Say what?
We were at Glastonbury tour.
Yes.
Yes.
Ah, okay. So when the concert was through and we were all through doing what we had to do, we got a ride to the first house in town to call for a taxi for Evan and I to be taken to the first phone booth in London, where we called a friend of Evan's who had been living there a couple of years to ask if we could have our baby at their house.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what we did. And that's where Max was born, at their house on a mattress on the floor upstairs. Wow. And so consequently, Max has a national health number. He's a British citizen. And the method behind my madness is that Vietnam was still going on. And I wanted my son, just in case it was still going on, to somehow have an out. And so worked out in all ways. That's all.
I have a birth story. Remember in New Mexico when Nancy Blue gave birth?
Yes.
And we were all around in that, and it was a group. Everybody was there, and she squatted and gave birth to the baby. I remember I fainted, and she had the baby.
And then of course there was the Tomahawk truck stop.
Unless he was talking about Jody.
So going back to that the Air India flight to London that you were just talking about. One of my favorite moments of that trip, I was on Francois Reichenbach's camera crew doing that trip, and somehow on the flight, as dawn was coming up and we were approaching the British Isles, I was in the cockpit with one or two other hog farmers. And a Sikh in a turban with a jewel was flying the Air India jet. And another Sikh in another turban was the co-pilot. And we're passing a joint around the cabin. And somebody gets on the PA and says, attention all passengers, we will be landing at Heathrow Airport in 15 minutes. Please consume all psychedelic substances at this time. And somebody gave me Hawaiian rosewood, which is the only time I ever had that. And it came on as we're getting off the plane, and I went through customs, coming on to Hawaiian rosewood and keeping the camera rolling all the way through customs to the double-decker red bus thing waiting for us, the London double-decker.
We took acid on the way to Woodstock too.
Oh, absolutely.
And that private plane, and
that wasn't a private plane. That was a commercial plane.
It was a charter
commercial plane.
Yeah, but we I remember, weren't people like laying in the luggage rack?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
That's insane. And I remember coming off in New York, and suddenly there were these camera crews there, and they stuck a camera in your face and said, "Why are you here?" But it was like that cosmic why are you here?
And
Yeah, they were the
and our
nice
answer
with nose
was,
guys.
oh, we're not really quite sure.
Why not?
We're going to Woodstock, but we're not sure exactly what we're doing. I remember all of us saying that.
Well, I remember Bob, not Bob Red Hat, but the other Bob Red Nose.
Bob Rednose?
Yeah, walking
Yes.
up into the cockpit with a big hunting knife in his teeth, saying, "Take this plane to Cuba." And everybody laughed. That would never happen again.
No.
Fred the Fed was seducing one of the stewardesses in the front
He was,
little thing, you know.
he was fucking the
He
steward.
was fucking the stewardess.
Oh my God.
Yes, that sounds right.
Where's the story of Star bringing on?
I remember Star.
Story of
I
Star.
remember, hello, may I speak? It's Rory. I remember on that plane ride going back to Yano after Woodstock, Star somehow gets the stewardesses, the flight attendant's uniform and puts
Yeah.
it on and has a lit candle in her hand and goes to many people's seats and mine included and says, coffee, tea, or me? Wearing the stewardess's uniform with a lit candle. I was high as a kite and died laughing.
You guys know
In
there's
her
the-
suit.
you
Yeah.
guys know there's YouTube of the arrival in the airport in New York. Suzovich and Erica pulling out the I Ching, throwing the coins. And the interview. I can send a link to anybody that wants it.
So while we're quiet here for just a moment, I would like to point out someone that many of you just met and some who may not have even met, and that would be Daria.
Yay.
I want to tell you what it means to run a camera for like 2.5 or 3 hours without a break. This is above and beyond.
I was wondering who that was.
I'm gonna say, thank you.
She's got strong arms.
Daria is a documentary feature director that when we were driving Pegasus on the bus across the country.
I was riding in Chicago.
She was a yippie in Chicago working with Abby Hoffman, helping set up the alternative convention in Lincoln Park. So part of the caress.
Yeah.
Hey, Erica, do you remember we were in Chicago? This is a memory, not for everybody, but we were in Chicago doing whatever we were doing. And you and I and Goose decided we had to get back to New York and we hitchhiked from Chicago to New York City. And you and I, there was the big rig driver that picked us up. And you and I slept in his bed in the back of the cab. And Goose was riding in the front seat with the cab driver. He stopped at some truck stop, got out of the cab and called his wife and yelled at his wife for like 20 minutes, just screaming. He was high on speed. And you and I and Goose went in to get something to eat, and we had $1.50 between the three of us. All the money we had, and the only thing we could afford was an egg sandwich, which was $1.50, and we split it 3 ways, and that's all we ate. And then we got to New York City, and we hooked up. We went to Bobby Miller's apartment, and it was Bobby Miller and Sky, and that's when you and Bobby got together.
Yeah. Well, we met them. We met them at an Earth People's Park meeting.
Okay.
Which, let's raise money
to buy back the earth
where everybody can live,
or at least Vermont.
Right. Yeah, so you and Bobby hit it off, and I was with Sky, and we had a grand old time in Bobby's fabulous Fifth Avenue apartment.
Yeah, I got to stay in that apartment for a while.
It had a black wall because they were photographers essentially. But I remember when we moved out of the apartment and we're flying to California, we had to paint that black wall white again.
Well, and I ended up in there, he let me stay in the apartment for about 2 weeks, with a bag of cocaine and I was painting his little kitchen with clouds and stuff on it to make it bigger. But then I was there by myself for 2 weeks. So I think that big white wall, I did totally in magic markers the whole way, with doodles.
And you got that dark room off the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the kitchen was a little
great
room.
apartment. I
Yeah.
loved it. I had so much fun.
Between St. Mark's and Second Avenue on 96, West 96.
Was right. Yeah.
Yeah, West
That's
96.
not St. Mark's. St. Mark's is
Right out
downtown.
Well, but it was on West 96 between,
I thought it was 86.
at West 86 between where was the park anyway?
Fifth Avenue, the park was on Fifth Avenue. I thought it was on the corner of Fifth Avenue and 86.
Yeah, it was.
Corner
Okay.
apartment, right, uptown, gorgeous neighborhood. The best, right near the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yeah, it was a great spot.
Yeah, I used to go to the museum.
Yeah.
Are we talked out?
Maybe.
Would that be?
Time to go.
I wanted to thank Jean Oxygen because I remember a year ago or more, this was her idea. She said she wasn't going to do the whatever thing she does every September. She wasn't going to do it this year. And why don't we all get together for an informal Hog Farm reunion? That was the seed of this get together, was Oxygen.
Yes,
You're absolutely right.
Thank
yes,
you.
and I thank that it's happening here where I don't have to go all the way to the Bay Area because it's a little closer for us.
Yeah, and I wish I was there.
And I wish we could do it every year if we can still hobble around.
It just happened magically that I arrived first and Wavy and Job arrived soon thereafter. Needing help. So it all just has come together so beautifully.
Yeah.
And we miss you guys so much.
Oh,
And
I miss
Cory,
you too,
those
but-
are the most fabulous glasses.
Thank you, but you can't see my face, but yeah, the glasses match the Hog Farm t-shirt.
Yes, we can see
We
it.
can see you.
Good. And I can see you, thank God. You all look beautiful.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, God, yes.
Thank you, God.
Thanks, Andy.
Hey, Rick. Love you. Love you.
Love you guys.
Love you all.
Oh, I don't want to let go of you. Just stay here forever. Can we just stay on Zoom forever?
Well, can we just come
I
back?
hope I see you all again soon.
They'll find out.
I expect I will see.
Camera's still running.
Hey, let me
Okay.
throw something adjacent in. What Charlie Manson was up to when I was on his bus was stopping at abandoned ranches to get all the empty gas tanks that he could possibly find to put them under his bus so he could travel cross country without stopping. That's what he was into when I was on his bus. He was not into killing anybody.
Wait a second, Bonnie Z, you
Yeah.
mean you knew both Charlie Manson and Elvis
Yeah, that's
Presley?
amazing, Bonnie Z. You have the best
My
story.
goodness.
Yeah, you just stepped on
That
Zach.
makes me one degree of separation
I got it. There you go.
from Charlie Manson and Elvis Presley.
Right. And Wavy Gravy.
And Wavy Gravy. And Evan
No, I
and
know
Bert.
Wavy Gravy. Yeah.
And Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who I was with for over 5 years, even on the advice of Wavy and Ja to stay away from him.
He wasn't called rambling for nothing.
Oh no, he didn't ramble when he was with me, but he was healthier than he ever was.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Although
more good memories.
Yeah, no, there's so many more.
So many more.
Wow.
But there's one
What a
that
joy.
there's one I haven't heard about from Jahanara. Does the name Tomahawk truck stop sound familiar?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I had a baby at the Tomahawk Truck Stop on my way to California. Wavy had flown ahead to meet us, but the baby came before we got home. So Wavy had to run to the airport and flag down the first plane in the middle of the night so he could get to Colorado to see the afterbirth baby. And then we carried on. But we had the birth was at the Tomahawk Truck Stop. And so that is why
Who officiated?
In the ass. In
Larry
that,
Brilliant
Larry Bennett was there.
happened to be living on the bus at the time.
Fair.
And just when we needed a doctor who happened to have access to a tank of gas.
And tell the story about the sign and how Jordan got his name.
The sign.
The welcome.
Oh, welcome Tomahawk Truck Stop. Yes, that's why we originally named him Tomahawk Truck Stop. Howdy do good. Howdy do good Tomahawk Truck Stop. It's the official first name, which we updated legally later. It's only slightly less crazy.
you know, bless Dr. Larry. He was, you know, one of the two doctors on the Medicine Ball Caravan, and he was at Max's birth in London. When we called him to come over, we reminded him for $2.75, whatever the English money is, he needed to bring the scissors with him to cut the cord. Good old Dr. Larry.
We were on our way when I went into labor. The three other women with me were on our way to a bus stop in Boulder, Colorado, to take a ride to a movie theater to see
Something.
Hal open the door. No, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
2001.
2001, thank you. We never did get to see that movie that day. We had a different movie. And we were at the bus stop, and it happened in the night. And people came in the morning who were in the restaurant and heard that their baby had just been born, and they started filing through. And I was there like the Madonna.
So we're never going to stop this. This is just going to keep on. But I think some people want to go to the bathroom, and some people might have, you know. So I think this is a moment where maybe we'll call a halt for a moment.
Let's grab onto each other for a moment.
Yeah.
And do a quick home round, whatever.
Let's do this.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh,
What?
that'll still stand. That'll carry us till next time. You guys. Oh, love you too.
Love you too.
Big hugs and kisses.
Okay, Rory.
You too.
Next time. Hugs and kisses. Chocolate kisses.
Rory, are you still there?
I'm still here, John. I'm never getting off.
Thank you. Rory,